Ethan never thought anything exciting would happen in his life. His colony was small, quiet, and far away from the rest of human space. Most days, he repaired broken drones, delivered packages, and tried not to get into trouble. At 17, he thought his life would always be simple. He was wrong. It began with a message. A flashing light on his communicator showed a symbol he had never seen before. It was gold, intricate, and seemed alive, moving slightly as if it was breathing. The message read, "Ethan Miller, report to the Emperor's Palace on Virelia Station immediately. Failure to comply is forbidden." He blinked at the message, unsure if it was a prank. Ethan had never heard of Virelia Station, let alone met an emperor. But the tone was serious, commanding. His stomach twisted. "No one pranks with words like that," he muttered to himself. Still, he had no way to refuse. When he arrived, the station was nothing like he imagined. It was massive, bigger than a city, suspended in space with towers stretching like giant fingers into the void. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked around it, some larger than his entire colony. Inside, corridors glowed with soft blue light, and alien creatures moved gracefully, each different from the next. Tall beings with 4 arms, creatures with shining scales, and some that floated without legs, all eyes turned toward him. Ethan felt small, very small. He was led into a grand chamber, the walls decorated with strange banners that shimmered. At the far end, a figure sat on a throne. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin was a silver blue, her eyes a deep violet, and her hair floated slightly as if underwater. Her presence filled the room, commanding attention and respect. This was Empress Liara, the widow of the recently deceased emperor. "You are the human?" she asked, her voice calm but powerful, echoing in the chamber. Ethan nodded, unsure if he should speak. She leaned forward slightly, her gaze piercing. "The Emperor, he chose you. It is your duty to protect me until the Council decides the next ruler." Ethan froze. Protect her. He barely knew how to fix a drone, and now he was supposed to guard the most powerful alien in the galaxy. I don't know how to," he began, but Liara's sharp eyes cut him off. "I do not ask for skill," she said, standing. She was taller than he expected, easily over 7 feet. "I ask for courage. Humans, sometimes you have it when you do not even know. We shall see if you do." That was the start of a nightmare and an adventure all at once. The palace was alive with tension. The council members whispered behind closed doors, each plotting to claim power. Alien generals eyed him as if he were a bug. The ministers treated him like a child, and Liara, well, she treated him like a curiosity, watching him constantly. Ethan felt like an ant in a garden of titans. The first challenge came quickly. During a routine briefing, an explosion shook the palace. Smoke filled the corridors, alarms blared, and Ethan's heart raced. Liara moved with impossible speed, drawing weapons from a concealed holster, her movements elegant and deadly. Ethan froze, unsure what to do. Then he saw a figure, a shadow moving toward Liara. Without thinking, Ethan ran, tripping over a polished floor and sliding into the path of the attacker. The alien guard reacted too late, and the intruder paused. That moment, just a second, was enough. Liara's hand lashed out, striking the shadow with incredible force, and the attacker crumpled. Liara's eyes widened briefly, and then she regarded Ethan with a faint smirk. "You survived your first test," she said. Ethan's legs shook. He had done nothing but get in the way, yet he survived, and somehow that counted. Days passed, and Ethan's life became a whirlwind. He learned the palace's rules quickly, not because he was smart, though he was clever, but because he had no choice. Every decision mattered, and one mistake could cost lives. Liara watched him constantly, silently judging. Sometimes her gaze made him want to shrink into the floor. Other times it gave him strength, a strange feeling of being seen, noticed. Liara herself was fascinating. She trained relentlessly, moved with precision, and spoke in a language that was part song, part command. Her voice could soothe an angry general or strike fear into a would-be assassin. Ethan often caught glimpses of her softer side, small moments when she seemed human, like when she looked at a dying plant in the palace garden or paused to listen to the soft hum of the station. Those moments were fleeting, but they mattered. One night Ethan sat in the observation deck staring at the stars. Liara joined him silently. She didn't speak at first, just looked out at the endless black dotted with lights. "You fear the council," she said finally. Her voice was gentle, not cold. Ethan nodded. I don't belong here. I'm just a kid from a small colony. I can't fight their plans, I can't understand their politics, I can't." "You are human," she interrupted, turning to face him. "That is exactly why you can." Ethan blinked. "What do you mean?" "You see things differently. You do not know our customs, our fear, our rules. You are not bound by them. That is why you might survive when an alien would not." She studied him closely. "You may be clumsy, weak, and inexperienced, but you have courage. That alone will make a difference." Ethan didn't know if she was flattering him or just stating facts, but her words gave him a strange confidence. Maybe he could survive here. Maybe he could do more than just fix drones. But danger was never far away. The next morning, an urgent alarm sounded. Ethan and Liara rushed to the palace gates, where a squad of shadowy figures tried to storm the main hall. Ethan froze at first, overwhelmed by their strange armor and glowing weapons. Then he remembered Liara's words, courage. He ran forward, grabbing whatever he could use, a fallen pipe, a loose panel, and improvised a defense. He tripped, rolled, and dodged, barely avoiding strikes. To everyone's surprise, he managed to block a blow aimed at Liara, just long enough for her to finish the attackers with elegant precision. Afterward, she looked at him with something that might have been approval. "Not bad for a human," she said quietly. Ethan couldn't tell if it was praise or an observation, but it felt like progress. That night, Liara called him to the training room. For the first time, she was going to teach him directly. She demonstrated basic combat movements, her body moving with a speed and grace he couldn't hope to match. Ethan stumbled, fell, and hit his head on the floor more than once. He wanted to quit, but Liara's eyes burned into his back as he tried again. "You will not fail," she said simply. "Even if you do, you will rise. That is what humans do." Ethan hated that she was right. He had never trained like this before, never pushed his body to these limits, yet he kept going. Something inside him had awakened, a determination that surprised even himself. The council continued plotting. Shadowy messages reached him, warning him to give up, to leave the palace, to let the Empress be claimed by someone stronger. Ethan didn't understand all the politics, but he understood danger. He realized someone wanted Liara dead, and if he failed, it would be his fault. One evening, as he studied the palace defenses, a whisper echoed in his mind, a strange effect caused by alien technology. He couldn't fully comprehend it, but it was a warning. Someone was inside near the Empress. His heart pounded. He ran, remembering everything he had learned. He ducked, rolled, and hid behind pillars as a cloaked figure moved down the hall. The figure was fast, silent, deadly. Ethan knew he couldn't fight head-on. He lured the intruder into a corridor with malfunctioning lights. The shadows played tricks on the attacker, slowing them just long enough for Liara to appear, weapons drawn. Together, human and alien fought in silence. Ethan didn't know what he was doing half the time, but instinct guided him. He tripped, shoved, blocked, everything he had learned from Liara. When it was over, the intruder was incapacitated, the palace safe. Liara looked at him for a long moment. "You are alive," she said simply, then softer, "and you saved me. That is unexpected." Ethan didn't know how to respond. He was exhausted, sore, terrified, and exhilarated. For the first time, he realized that maybe he did belong here. Maybe being human, being different, was exactly what this empire needed. That night, he sat again in the observation deck, staring at the stars. Liara joined him without a word, standing silently beside him. For the first time, he felt not like a pawn in a game he didn't understand, but like someone who mattered. Above them, the galaxy continued its silent spinning, full of dangers, mysteries, and opportunities. Ethan knew that this was only the beginning. The palace, the council, the threats, they would not rest. But he had something no one expected: courage, determination, and the Empress herself watching him, testing him, and perhaps slowly trusting him. The Emperor was dead and the Empire was fragile. But in the quiet moments, amid the chaos, a human teen and a powerful alien Empress began an unlikely partnership. And the galaxy would never forget the human who dared to stand beside a legend. The palace was quieter than usual that morning. Ethan could feel it in the air, the kind of quiet that comes before chaos. He had spent the night thinking, reviewing every moment of the previous day. He still could not believe he had survived a direct attack on the Empress. Yet, despite fear and exhaustion, he had grown a strange confidence. Perhaps he was more capable than he had thought. Liara entered the observation deck without knocking. She moved like a shadow, silent and graceful, her piercing violet eyes scanning the stars outside before settling on him. "The council is restless," she said, her voice calm but tinged with warning. "They will attempt something more daring soon, perhaps today." Ethan swallowed. He had been expecting this. The council, greedy and impatient, would not wait for the Empire to stabilize. They wanted power, and they saw him as an obstacle, a human child in a palace of giants. "What do we do?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Liara tilted her head, considering him. "We prepare. You have learned some skills, human, but you must learn more. Today, I teach you strategy." They spent hours together in the strategy hall, a room filled with holographic maps of the Empire and its neighboring systems. Liara's teaching style was demanding. She expected precision, focus, and imagination. Ethan struggled to keep up. His mind was human, not trained in centuries of alien tactics, yet he noticed patterns that even the generals had missed. A hidden corridor here, a supply route there, a flaw in the council's guard rotations. His observation surprised Liara, who raised an eyebrow and allowed a rare smile. "You may be human," she said softly, "but your mind is sharper than you know." Ethan wanted to feel proud, but he knew this was only the beginning. Danger was still near. By mid-afternoon, the alarm sounded again. The palace shook from distant explosions. Smoke rolled through the corridors. The council was making its move, testing defenses and sowing fear. Ethan's heart raced as he ran alongside Liara. Her presence was calming and terrifying at the same time. He could barely keep up with her speed, but he noticed the details: the direction of the enemy, the weapons they used, the gaps in their armor. He relayed this to Liara, who nodded silently. Together, they entered the main hall, where the council's hired mercenaries had breached the defenses. The soldiers were alien, armored in dark reflective plates, moving in perfect coordination. Ethan realized that no human could face them alone, but with Liara, they had a chance. Liara moved first, her combat skills flawless and deadly. She disarmed one attacker with a swift motion, sent another crashing into the wall, and twisted her own body in ways that defied human anatomy. Ethan followed, improvising with what he had learned. He used distractions, pushed panels to trip enemies, and occasionally found a weak point to exploit. Though his movements were clumsy, they complemented Liara's grace. Together, they created a rhythm that confused and overwhelmed the attackers. In the midst of the fight, Ethan noticed a figure attempting to reach Liara from behind, a shadowy assassin moving faster than anyone else. Without thinking, he dove, grabbing the figure's weapon and using all his weight to throw them off balance. Liara turned at the perfect moment, delivering a strike that incapacitated the intruder. The hall fell silent. Ethan's chest heaved as he realized they had survived. He looked at Liara, expecting approval or criticism. Instead, she merely nodded, her eyes reflecting a mixture of surprise and respect. "You are improving," she said quietly. "And you are alive. That is more than most humans achieve in a lifetime." The council, observing from hidden chambers, was in shock. They had expected a quick defeat. Instead, a human teen had not only survived but had played a crucial role in saving the Empress. Whispers of Ethan's courage began spreading through the palace. Later, as the sun, or its alien equivalent, set over the horizon of Vierlia Station, Ethan and Liara stood on the observation deck once more. The city below glowed with lights and ships streaked across the sky. "You have done well today," Liara said, her voice softer than usual. "You saved me, yes, but more importantly, you acted with intelligence. That is rare." Ethan shook his head. "I was scared. I didn't want to fail." "That is the essence of courage," she replied. "It is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it." For the first time, Ethan felt a true connection with the Empress. She had been distant, intimidating, even frightening at first. Now he sensed a fragile trust forming, a recognition that he could rise to meet impossible odds. Days turned into weeks. Ethan trained, studied, and grew stronger, not only physically but mentally. He learned alien customs, strategies, and even a little of the Empress's own language. Liara guided him, sometimes harshly, sometimes patiently. And through it all, he began to understand her world, her pressures, and her loneliness. The council's plots did not cease. New threats emerged: assassins, saboteurs, and rival nobles attempting to seize control. Each time, Ethan adapted. He relied on his human instincts, seeing solutions that alien minds overlooked. He created clever diversions, predicted attacks, and occasionally acted on gut feeling, often saving the day. Liara observed him closely. She noticed how he considered the lives of others, how he valued even the smallest detail, and how his courage never faltered. Slowly, she began to treat him as more than a human pawn. He became her partner in the palace, her unexpected ally in a world where trust was rare. Then came the day of the greatest threat. The council had united behind a secret leader, a cunning and ruthless noble who had orchestrated the emperor's death. The palace shook with explosions, alarms blared, and the corridors were filled with chaos. Ethan and Liara moved as one, combining her deadly skill with his ingenuity. They fought through waves of enemies, each encounter more dangerous than the last. Ethan improvised weapons from palace structures, set traps, and used the environment to their advantage. Liara moved with unmatched precision, striking down enemies before they could reach them. Their teamwork was seamless, a dance of instinct and training. Finally, they reached the central chamber where the council leader waited, surrounded by guards. Ethan's mind raced. The odds were against them, but he noticed a structural weakness, a small energy conduit running along the floor. He whispered his plan to Liara. With precision, Liara created a diversion, drawing the guards forward. Ethan triggered the conduit, creating a controlled explosion that disoriented the attackers without harming the palace itself. In the chaos, they overwhelmed the remaining enemies, capturing the council leader. The palace was silent once more. Ethan stood, breathing heavily, bloodied and exhausted but victorious. Liara approached him, her face unreadable at first. Then slowly, a faint smile appeared. "You have done it," she said. "You have not only saved me but the Empire." Ethan shook his head, still trying to process everything. I just did what I could." "No," Liara replied firmly. "You did more than that. You acted with courage, intelligence, and heart. You proved that even a human, one not born to power, can stand among the greatest beings in the galaxy and make a difference." For the first time, Ethan felt truly seen, not as a child, not as an outsider, but as someone who mattered. Liara reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. It was a gesture of trust and respect, rare and precious. In the days that followed, the palace slowly returned to normal. The council was disbanded, replaced by loyal ministers who respected both the Empress and the human who had proven his worth. Ethan continued his training, learning not only combat but diplomacy, strategy, and leadership. He still struggled, still made mistakes, but now he had confidence. Liara and Ethan spent long hours together, planning the future of the Empire. She taught him lessons not just of power, but of responsibility, empathy, and resilience. And though they never spoke of it directly, a bond grew between them, one forged through danger, trust, and mutual respect. Ethan realized that his life had changed forever. He had started as a simple human teen, unsure of his place in the universe. Now he was a protector, a strategist, and a partner to one of the most powerful beings in existence. The galaxy was vast and dangerous, but he knew that together, he and Liara could face whatever came next. The stars outside the observation deck shone brightly, indifferent to the struggles of mortals and immortals alike. Yet Ethan felt a sense of purpose he had never known. He had proven that courage and determination could overcome even the greatest obstacles. And for the first time, he understood the truth of Liara's words. Being human did not make him weak, it made him remarkable. As he stood beside the Empress, watching the galaxy spin endlessly, Ethan knew one thing for certain. His life had begun in ways he could never have imagined, and together, they would shape the future of an empire that had once thought a human could never belong. And so, the emperor was gone, but his empire endured, guided by a human teen and his extraordinary alien empress, an unlikely partnership that would echo through the stars for generations to come.